Good morning, fellow Joja Warriors. It is Dre. I hope you are having an amazing day. I did want to make sure I put my time in that we were able to discuss how you're going to rise to the challenges you continue to strive towards the greatness that you have set for yourself for 2020. Today's message is really a focus on making sure that you're not settling. And more specifically, what we're going to talk about today is just what are your expectations for yourself in your general interactions? When you go to work, do you expect to be on time or do you expect to be late? When you're in meetings, do you expect for people to ask you questions? Do you expect to be able to add something to that? Or do you expect to sit back and kind of watch and allow things to happen to you? If you're in a competitive environment, maybe you're in sales, do you expect to hear your name called when you win an award, or are you expecting other people to get the awards and you're just kind of getting there to get your couple drinks and a little food and to clap for other people? Right? What are the expectations that you have set for yourself that you have learned over time and that you have created what we'll call your reality, your general understanding of how you interact with the world around you? And the reason this is very important is because we've already been discussing kind of the importance of the idea that when we're chasing happiness, that what we're really doing is there's something deep inside of us, there's something internally that is letting us know that something is not right in our life, something that we need to change, whether that is in a relationship, whether that is professionally, whether that is just kind of taking some risk where you go out there on your own, whatever that looks like, there's something that's kind of just irking you a little bit. And you're just not sure how the world's going to interact with you, how it's going to accept you. But I remind you, the one thing that everybody wants in life, you, me, anybody you point, is we want to be accepted for who we are. Now, the difficulty that most of us have is we are uncomfortable sharing who we really are. So you can already see what the difficulty would be in that life, right? We want to be accepted for who we are, but we're too uncomfortable to share who we really are. So instead, we spend most of our life living exactly as we believe society would like us to. And most times, you'll find that those expectations are much lower than the expectations that you would set for yourself. And so I did want to share one of my favorite pioneers. I even mentioned him in my book is Bill Powell. And we could have written an entire story about him, but it just was a snippet where it's someone that the expectations that he had for himself was different than the expectations that others had for him. So as an African American, he actually served in the military, in the Army specifically. And when he came back in 1946 from England in his armed services, he really wanted to get into some golfing. Now, as someone who is not as super excited about golfing, but will go from time to time, I like to say I get my money's worth when I go golfing. What I mean is, some people go out there and they'll be done in like 2, 3, 4 strokes. Not me. I like to average about a good 5 to 10 strokes on every hole. That way, I know I got my money's worth. I don't know about you, but I got my money's worth. So, anyways, Bill was a caddy since like 9 years old, so he was always around golf and he was very excited about it. And so he came back and he was under this impression, well, I served in the military, everybody's going to be excited to see me, so I'm going to go golfing. And to his surprise, which probably isn't too surprising to most of you who have read some history, he actually was not allowed on the golf course. Golf courses were not integrated in 1946. He actually, it specifically was in the PGA bylaws that a non-white was not allowed to golf. Now, Bill said in his biographies, when you kind of listen to him, he says that the feeling that he had when he experienced that, it caused him so much pain, so much harm, so much misery in that moment that the joy that he wanted, he was not allowed to do. Even though he just sacrificed and was willing to give his life for his country, they were not allowing him to go on a golf course. And so Bill said that he just had to create something that created where any black that wanted to golf was able to go golfing without having to experience the humiliation that he went through. Now, when you think about that, right, for him chasing happiness, right, on the surface, you're like, oh, he just wanted to go golfing and he wasn't allowed. He could probably go swing some balls in the back or he could figure out something else to do, right? That's the expectations of him at that time. There was nothing for him to do. There was no other place for him to go. There was no integration. There was no black only golf course. And if you really just think about it right, you have to own the land. You have to kind of work the course. You have to create it. You have to have that design. It's very difficult in 1946 to make this happen. And no one would have faulted him. It was a year before Jackie Robinson broke the color barrier. So just to give you a little context of what's going on at this time, so no one would have faulted him for saying that's just not the way things are done. But the interesting thing that you'll find is Bill said, you know what? That's not the way things should be. And that's not the way things are going to be from this moment forward. So Bill was able to find 2 black physicians and his brother, and he was able to get the money together to buy 78 acres of land. Now, he's got 78 acres, so you're sitting there like, okay, well, I'm not very familiar with golf, so how much was he able to do with that? Well, he was able to make a 9-hole golf course, the first African American, the first black to own, operate, and manage a golf course. And then a few decades later, he was able to build the funds, and he was able to buy more land and turn it into an 18-hole golf course. Many say that he is still the only black to actually own, manage, and operate a golf course to this day. And so when you're thinking about the decisions that he made, this is not a very easy experience. It's not a very easy goal to have. I'm sure that he probably was telling some people, and they're like, dude, it's golf. Get over it. Right? Black people don't golf anyways. That's always the most interesting thing about expectations is it's not just the side that you believe shouldn't be for you. It's sometimes your own friends and family who are like, yeah, this doesn't seem like it's worth the investment. It doesn't seem like it's worth the risk. It just doesn't seem like it makes sense. Like, who really cares if you can golf or not? Bill, there's lots of problems going on in the world today. Surely you should just be thankful that you've gotten back to your country safely after serving in war. There are so many others that were not as fortunate as you. And see, Bill understands the difference between being content and complacent, and I talk about it all the time. See, content is understanding that I am very thankful to be alive, to make it back to my family, and I understand that golfing is not that big of a deal in the grand scope of things, but that's really where the line kind of draws at. Everything from that moment on would be complacency. Where, look, how am I going to get the money to buy this land? I don't know the first thing about running a golf course. I don't know how to set a hole. I'm just not really sure how to do any of that. So maybe I should just reside back to the life that I have, the expectations that were given to me. But see, Bill didn't share that same complacency that the average person has. What Bill said is, I'm going to figure this out. And it says that him and his wife, Marcy, I don't know why I do that, but I give people the nicknames like I've known them forever. But that's what I would say. Bill and his wife, Marcy, it says that they operated that golf course and they set that 78 acres by hand. That they invested that sweat equity of themselves into that golf course. And then, like most things, once you invest it and once you build it, then people start saying, oh, that's actually a pretty good idea. And if you've ever read or listened to any entrepreneur, they'll often say that whenever you face a problem, that if you can create the solution, you'll find that lots of people have faced that problem. So Bill started getting a lot of black golfers who had just accepted the reality as the way it was. Well, you're not allowed to go golfing. And interesting for Bill is he started thriving where things were very successful. And it wasn't until over 60 years after he opened his golf course that society, the PGA, gave him the highest award that they can bestow on him. Now, he was already over 90 years old, and I believe they gave it to him in August of 2009, and he actually passed in December 31st of that year. Yeah, I believe in December 31st. So no, he passed at 93 years old. So they gave him the award over 90, so right at the end. So it's not like he was looking for any recognition, right? He wasn't doing it because he thought it was the popular decision. He wasn't doing it because he thought it was something that would get him on like the cover of Times or something like that. He was doing what that inner drum beat of happiness was expressing. It said that this isn't right. I shouldn't have to deal with this. Others shouldn't have to endure this. How can I rise to the challenge? And he did. And even though it took 60 years for him to be recognized, for him to be awarded, that never was really a part of his calculus. Right? Bill would have been okay if literally only he golfed on his own golf course. He would have been cool with that. Now, in his mind, he wanted to make sure that others didn't have to endure the issue and the humiliation and the hatred that he had to endure. But it didn't really matter if anybody caught on. And you'll notice that continual theme that the people that you find who are able to kind of put their stamp on life, they're rarely concerned about what society is telling them at that time. They understand that if you follow that inner drumbeat that I say is where you're chasing happiness, the Achoja lifestyle, that you are going to rise to the challenge and you'll find that you end up changing the world around you. The mistake that most of us make, and me included at times, is we ask other people to change. The idea of a better world is us going out and telling other people how they should live and what they should do and what's right and what's not. But often, if you really want to change the world, you got to start with you, right? We got to look inwardly first. We want to live a certain life that allows us to live the exact way that we believe the world should live. And then through our expression, through us staying true to us being willing to express who we are on the inside to the world around us, and being okay with the idea that nobody may accept that, nobody may like that, nobody may appreciate that, but we still do it anyways, you'll find that this amazing thing always happens. You have two great things that happen. One is you're going to draw people towards you who match that same vibration. People who have that same thought inside of them are going to say, wow, I'm not by myself and this person is taking action. I want to be a part of that. Two, you're going to have people who have been kind of maybe you thought were wishy-washy on the sidelines, and they're going to be like, dude, I'm out of here. And you're going to be like, thank you for self-identifying and excluding yourself from this journey that I'm on. The mistake that most of us make is we live kind of on that bubble, right in the middle, where you're in that 7 out of 10 people who say that they are unhappy with their life, and we're referring to the Times Magazine poll, where if we just expressed who we were, we would have a much better life because we're going to repel people who do not want to be part of that, and we're going to draw people who love that idea. But when you don't express who you are, will do the opposite. You'll have people who you don't want in your life hanging out with you because they think that you match them in some way, or at least you're indifferent enough that every time they tell you what they want to do, you find a reason to say that that's a good idea. But that's not really rising to the challenge. If you want to rise to the challenge, you got to put in that work. And the first thing you got to do is you got to learn to listen to yourself. And we're going to have other videos where we talk about how do you know which voice inside of you is that inner voice, the one that's true to you, that is chasing that happiness. And then which one is things that we've been taught by society, the expectations that have been put on us that we have allowed ourselves to kind of take a hold of and continue on. And it's important for you to understand that whatever the expectation you have of yourself, you're going to meet them. If you've ever met me, if you ever had a conversation with me, people will tell you all the time that there's two things about me. One is I'm super optimistic, which is pretty cool because that means that oftentimes if you tell me why you can't do something, I will tell you 3 reasons why you can. And sometimes that makes you feel really good. And sometimes you're like, Dre, I just don't feel like doing that today. But either way, I'm going to tell you why you can and how I know you can, and I'm willing to help you do that. But two, people often tell you that I'm willing to put in that work with you. That we can kind of do that stride together, that I will help anyone that I'm able to because I genuinely believe that the world would be a fantastic place if everyone was able to draw into that inner discipline, that inner expression of that thought that's saying, you can do this, let's go for it. And I think we've just learned to silence that over the years, and it's really frustrating because when you ask yourself what's wrong with society, why do we live in a world where people share videos instead of helping the person who they're videotaping? Because the expectation is to share the video, right? We've all been online, so we've seen someone share a video in this situation. And we've gotten millions of likes, and it's been gone viral, and it's been shared, and so it's been celebrated, right? It's not very often that the first thing someone says when they see a video like that is, why didn't you help that person? But if we did do that, then that would change it. But always, as I mentioned, the first step is to change your expectations of yourself. The second step is to raise that standard up, right? So first we got to say, you know what? There's something else that I should be doing. I got to work on that. Society is telling me to do A, but I really feel like I should do B. And then when you raise your expectations, to me, that is not going as far as saying things should be better, I should be doing differently. That's putting pen to paper. That's saying this is what I'm going to do to make tomorrow better than it was today. To me, that's where the raising the expectation comes from. It's when you really kind of think about how I'm going to do this. You put a little mini plan together and you start taking steps and you start making adjustments along the way. And I believe that if everyone did that, man, could you imagine how great things would be? No, it tickles me to think about it. It's very powerful. But I do want you guys to also keep in mind the people around you play a direct role in that. There's little doubt in my mind that if Bill's wife was not on board with him taking the money from those two physicians and his brother to get the 78 acres to start building that golf course, that most likely it wouldn't have happened. And it's scary when you think about that, but it's really important that you guys understand who you are around may change depending on when you start expressing yourself. And I say that just to help you prepare mentally for it. If you have been pretending to be someone that you are not, and you're about to be true to yourself, then that means the people that you have surrounded yourself with may be expecting that other person. And it's not a bad thing that it doesn't work out. It's just something that you should be aware of. There's a chance that they're going to be like, wow, I didn't know you thought that. I thought the same way. This is relieving. But I just want you to kind of already have that thought in your mind as you're expressing yourself, as you're being true to yourself, that it may change the environment that you have around you. And you got to be okay with that. You at least got to be willing to invest in and be willing to see kind of what happens. I'm not telling you to go out there and to like not care about anything, right? These are people that hopefully love you, care about you, have helped you, but just for you to be prepared for that. Don't be sideswiped. Don't just say, you know what, it was a silly idea. This is more important to me, right? You really want to make sure that you spend the time together to figure out how you can create the plan that allows everyone to win, right? Because it is possible in most situations. And if it isn't, you'll know very early on. And so that'll do it for today. I do want to encourage you guys. I just want to give a shout out to Bill. And I just wanted to remind you guys that the world that you're looking to create, if you rise to the challenge, you can create it. But you got to start by being that example, not telling people how it should be, right? Like if Bill was simply saying, golf courses should be integrated, this is not right, I don't think he would have gotten as much traction as when he has his own golf course and people are seeing that there's not only market for it, but that he's very successful in his own right. You gotta take the steps to create the environment that you're looking to live in, and that'll be a mindset moment. Always thankful for our time together. If you guys like this message, go ahead and like it, leave a review, comment, etc., etc. If you have thoughts or questions and you want to reach out, you guys can find me anywhere. I'll try to post the videos all the time. We have a Facebook group, we got the webpage, we got the whole shebang. I'm always thankful for our time together. Continue blessings.